So in this new world, I want to cover for you what I think how work is changing, because I think as leaders we need to just acknowledge this. You all know work is now 24/7. It's in your pocket or in your purse all the time. We have more distributed teams than we've ever had before. We have more business data than we could possibly ever even consume or ever even think of consuming earlier in our careers. Transparency is the new normal. I was just having a conversation over here with Craig, who's got an interesting business going on. Think of like your experience with a Lyft driver or an Uber driver. After you finish your ride, what happens? You're served a little email, right? Or if you get a delivery from Instacart, is that a five implications for that? That you are going to be exposed. We are all going to be more exposed than we've ever been before, and it's an uncomfortable feeling. I think that's a great pressure, because crappy leaders are not going to be able to hide anymore. And I don't know about you, but I've learned more from crappy leaders than I have from good leaders in my career. Unfortunately. I mean, unfortunately, we have more models. We remember the bad leaders more than we remember the good leaders. But great transparency is going to put more pressure in the right ways so that good leaders are going to rise. We're going to be able to see who they are. And if you play that out, if you play that sort of Uber model 5-star manager rating out, we are going to come to a point sometime in the next 5 to 10 years where there will be a ubiquitous rating for leaders. Like, it probably won't be 5 stars. We're probably going to do more of a larger scale, maybe like a net promoter score for you as a leader. Like, would you recommend your leader to someone else? It's going to happen. And then if everyone has a similar score, think about that. Now we're going to be able to curate quality at a broader level. More on that in a minute. Some other things that I'm seeing change that is really putting a big pressure on us as leaders is that companies and industries are growing and dying faster than ever before. So fast. And the other really interesting thing that we're seeing is McKinsey's published a study not long ago that said millennials will have 11 jobs by the time they're 40. Think about that for a second. If I do the math and someone graduates around the age of 22, that's about every 2.5 years you're going to switch jobs. So think of the implications for that. Is anyone seeing in your organizations today people are staying longer than they used to? Anybody? No. Interesting, right? Think about that. So if I play this out, more people are going to be leaving than ever before. Your alumni, your former employees, is going to be bigger than it's ever been before. So newsflash, if you're not already curating relationships with your former employees, calling them alumni, bringing them back into the family, you're missing a huge opportunity. Because that is a huge, huge place for you to be able to continue to recruit and gain advocacy for your organization. And I'm talking about this with a lot of organizations right now. They're saying, wow, we've got a lot of former employees. And gone are the days where I grew up on the East Coast, so I can sort of, when I get my sort of inner East Coast on. You guys familiar with the Godfather HR strategy when people left your company years ago? They're kind of, you're dead to me. You take your boxes, move out. I don't even take your photo out of the company picture from the picnic. You're gone. You can't do that today. Because employees have something in their pocket. It's called a megaphone to the world. And we have to curate those. And that's a huge, huge difference from what we had to deal with before. Social networks is one of the big drivers of why we need to change as leaders. And I think that's a good pressure, and why I think sites like Glassdoor, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter are going to be really good opportunities. In addition to work changing, I think employees are changing. And I want you to think about the community that you work in and how that's changing. I think employees are increasingly looking for immediate gratification. One of the drivers of why people leave today. I don't think employees want jobs anymore. They want adventures. They want a string of adventures. And I think as leaders, we're going to have to think about leading in ways of providing great adventures. So here's what happens if you provide an adventure. You provide an adventure, someone talks about it, and they share it with their friends, and more people see how cool things are in your organization, or how they're growing, or learning, or developing, or making an impact. And now your employee experience is your brand. That's new. We haven't had that before. We've been able to control our brand through media. Now, your brand is not under your control anymore. Your brand is the cumulative net amount of data that your employees are putting out to the world about how great it is to work for you, work with you, and make an impact. So I think this is another big nugget that I want to share with you. If you're not thinking about the employee experience and curating experiences worth sharing, you're missing an opportunity. Your employees are going to share what it's like to work for you. wouldn't you want that to be a good experience and create things worth sharing? And I think it's something that a lot of organizations are thinking about work differently around that. Demand for personalization, I think, is going up. Anyone familiar with this organization that was built at Facebook called Life at Facebook? Well, Facebook talked to their employees and said, what are you struggling with? What do you think the first problem with Facebook employees is? Housing. Does anyone not have a problem with expensive housing? Okay. So they created a whole department to help people with housing. Next problem was commute. They created a whole organization just to help people navigate commutes. Then people said, I've got a brother who's going through mental illness. I've got a mother who's ready to go into assisted care living. I don't know how to deal with that. And they created a whole organization of about 50 people full-time fielding life issues for their employees. Because the more the life issues are solved, the more people can get focused. Another organization dealing with personalized experiences that I had to compete against for talent when I was recruiting was Netflix. Anyone here from Netflix? All right, I won't trash them, don't worry. Netflix, has anyone tried to hire someone against Netflix in here? Okay. Well, Netflix pioneered in the battle for technical talent over the last few years. Networks unveiled a really interesting approach to how they recruit and how they pay their people. Whereas most organizations have a base salary with an incentive plan and then an array of benefits from how much time off you have to what kind of quality, increased healthcare, dental, vision benefits, and so forth. Netflix said, no, we're going to look at this differently. We're going to say, Matt, we look at your job and all in. We're going to hire the best in the world. We're going to pay you the best. All in, Matt. We think your job is worth, with benefits and compensation and all the stock that you could possibly earn, we think your job's worth about $200,000 a year. So we're going to write you a check for $200,000. Now, if you want extra time off, if you would like to buy some company shares, you can allocate some of that $200,000 into more shares or whatever you want to do, but it's up to you because you may not want more health care because you're single, or you may want a lot more health care because you've got 7 children. It's entirely up to you. But this model is really customizable. So imagine you're me at LinkedIn a few years ago competing against Netflix, and I'm hiring someone, and the value of that job is probably about the same to me. It's around 200, but I've got to say, hey, I've got a base salary for you, it's 110. And I got a 20% incentive plan. And if the company comes in like this, and our customer sat scores are like this, and your performance scores are like this, you might get that 20%, or it could be 25%. And if we have a good year, there's profit sharing, so you could get another like 10% on that. So now we're at like 175, and oh, we got an ESPP match and a 401k match, and it's really looking good. And if our share price goes at 6%, you see, what do you want to go for? The guaranteed 200K over here, or me and spinning how my company might perform? It completely transformed that, making it really hard to compete against because it's really hard for someone to get their eye off a big number. And it's really smart, but it also helps customize. And we're starting to see more organizations try to change that metric so that they can differentiate and also meet the needs of a highly unique breed of talent called millennials, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. So this new reality that we work in, so much information, things are changing fast, things are so transparent, I think it calls for a new model of leadership. And here's some of the elements of that I think are super important. I know this is going to sound cliche. I know you're going to say, wow, I took a whole morning off to hear about listening strategy. That's the best Steve can do after a U2 concert, what I can't even hear at this point. Listening strategy, so important. And the way I think about it is, we have more intelligence sitting in more places than ever before in our organization. The customer knows more than they ever did before. Our employees at every level know more than they ever did before. And I'm seeing leaders increasingly become more information brokers and insight connectors than decision makers. I don't have time to gather all the information. It's impossible for me to gather all the information. Susan over here and Jerry over there know more about this issue. I need to connect those two because that came through me and I understand they've got an issue that they both can solve together. But you have to listen more than you ever did before. And the good news is there are a number of new tools out there. I did a presentation a few weeks ago around the future of human resources. I wanted to talk about listening strategy, so I said, let me do some research. How many new firms out there in the last 3 years have been created to help organizations listen to their employees? And I'm seeing organizations do, has anyone been through Heathrow Airport recently? You go through security and you hit the smiley face or sad face. Companies are pushing that to people's mobile phones. Did you feel you made a difference at work today? As soon as they walk out the door, they know because of where the mobile signal is. And some companies are doing that every day. I'm not suggesting that you do that. I'm just saying people are recognizing the understanding of where people's moods are at. Like if 70% of my people walk out unhappy one day, yo, what did I do at that company meeting? Something's going on, I want to understand it more. And I'm not saying that you should change how you lead based on just mood sentiment, but I think how we gather information is going to be so more important. I found 10 companies that have been created in the last few years to help organizations with listening. Organizations where they can pull, you can pull people, you can get pulse, you can get insights, you can ask really interesting questions. I mean, look at these names: Office Vibe, Lint. Here's a really the marketing team must have killed himself on this one. Get Feedback. Now, the people at Waggle should have talked to people at Get Feedback, because Waggle is actually a better feedback tool than Get Feedback. Anyway, maybe they could buy the name. Tiny Pulse. That's like Austin Powers, like mini-me feedback. Like that one. 15.5, Culture Aid. Culture Aid's a big one, they've been around a while. But a lot of these allow you to just get a sense from the transparent, the author can tell you who they are and what they're giving feedback to, the anonymous feedback and getting pulse, and also helping you act on it. There's a lot of tools out there. If you're not doing this, the annual survey's over, it's dead, gone, bye-bye. If you're doing it once a year, it's too late. And by the way, it's not just getting the feedback, it's actually the feedback that people really want. They want to know, this generation of workers wants to know you're listening and you're engaging in what their concerns are. And I know some of you are like, I don't have time for that, it's not happening. Well, people have more choice about where they work than ever before, so I think it's incumbent upon us.